Shalom. Kol Halo Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than never. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that look like those heathen nations, the Israelite foreigners, and to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with a quick lesson. And I watched a ton of videos in my travels today, my going back and forth. And this was one of them that I watched. Because, I watched a lot of brothers' videos, a lot of edification is going out from the Great Millstone. The men of the Great Millstone are doing the work of the Lord for sure. All right. But this was one of the videos I watched with Danny Hafong. All right. Danny Hafong is, constantly bringing you the news of the things that's going on in Western Asia and, in that part of the world, and how close we are to, to this third woe and all the things that come along with that. As a matter of fact, let me grab a quick scripture. I had one, but I'm going to read another one instead. This is 2 Ezra 9:1, and it reads, "And he answered me and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then thou shalt understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest." And that's what's happening. The end is manifesting itself. America is running out of tomorrows. You don't have a lot of tomorrows left. All right. And within the media trying to control the narrative, they're trying to shut down TikTok. Anything that opposes them or questions them or brings out information, they love to throw out that word misinformation and disinformation, which is nothing but projection. Go look up the word project when someone is projecting. The mainstream media is constantly projecting because they're the ones guilty of the very things that they're accusing everyone else of doing. All right. You got famine, you got wars, rumors of wars, all kind of pestilence, natural and man-made. It really doesn't matter because it's all coming from the Lord. When the Lord puts it on the spirit of these devils to go and create something new and then release it. I always talk about the CDC, the Center of Disease Creation. It's exactly what it is. But Danny Hafong's guest today is one of his regular guests, which he has on often, which is a former UN weapons inspector, the former Marine, Scott Ritter. And Scott Ritter is worried, along with a lot of other people. All right. Now Esau's even trying to lie about the drones, and now he went from UFOs to UAPs, and now they're drones. And then someone posted a video of a drone flying toward an orb, showing that they're not the same, and the orb destroyed the drones. So yeah, things are not looking good for Esau. We're coming to the end of his rulership, the end of the age. All right, and they're trying, they were trying desperately to bring peace, but there is no peace. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:1. It says, and the point is in verse 3, "But the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you." So, he was speaking to his brethren, which were the Israelites. So this wasn't to all people, all right? Okay, Christianism's, mainstream refuses to acknowledge that there are two sets of Gentiles. All right, that you have the Israelite foreigners who are living their lives as Gentiles and often look like Gentile nations, and then you have the actual natural Gentiles. All right, there's two sets of Gentiles in the Bible, and that's a very important point, a very important detail which is left out of Christianism, which is why, people freak out when they find out that, when they hear that the salvation is only for the nation of Israel, including the scattered that are scattered among the heathen that look like the heathen. Because, there's a lot of people that watch my channel and yet they have a problem with that, but they watch anyway. If you got a problem with that, you don't have a problem with me. You got a problem with the gospel, all right, with the scattered. Paul was a apostle to the scattered, to the Gentiles, all right. And those Gentiles happen to be the Hellenists, the Hellenistas, the Greek speaking Jews, not just any old, not Scott Ritter, all right. The message wasn't for Scott Ritter. Okay. Now, granted, and they're gonna hate it. There are some Israelites that's gonna come looking like Scott Ritter because they can be traced back to Israelite loins through their forefathers. So all it takes is for you to come out of the loins of an Israelite male, and regardless of what you look like, you're still an Israelite. And you got a lot of unspiritual, unlearned people that have a hard time with that. All right. But back in 1 Thessalonians 5:2, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord cometh as a thief in the night. So it's going to come to a lot of you people like, because we're expecting it. All right. We're praying for it. We're hastening the day. All right. Because, the scripture said that they will wear out the saints. Man, we're wore out. We're wore out. They're bombarding us with poisons in our food, in our water. Your immune system is constantly strained because as soon as you get over something, they spray that shit in the sky and you have new issues. All the nutrients being stole from the food. So now you got to spend all this extra money buying supplements when all that stuff should be in your food anyway. Esau is the damn devil. 1 Thessalonians 5:3, the point. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with a child, and they shall not escape. So when they say everything's going to be all right, that's when it's not. So without any further ado, we're going to let about 5 or 6 minutes of this video play, and then I'll finish with some scriptures. Because the EU and NATO, I keep telling you that they're fragile and they're on the verge of breaking up. All right. They're on the verge of separating from each other. They're on the verge of separating from America. All right. Because of Trump with his America first. Now the EU is saying, well, the hell with them. The EU first. NATO first. All right. The Prime Minister of the UK just said he would not side with America against the EU. And I forget the guy's name, his title up in Canada, just said that he would cut off power to many American states, those northern states that border Canada. Many of them get their power and their electricity from Canada. All right. So, Trump wants to play hardball and make it difficult for his allies, but this is all to fulfill scripture. And you can see the fragility that's among them. And at the same time, all this fragility is among the house of Esau, a house divided cannot stand. They're pushing this war dangerously in Ukraine on the borders of Russia, which is why the Russians came into Ukraine in the first place, because they were trying to prevent America from putting bases and missiles at their doorstep. All right, which would be the equivalent of what if Russia set up military bases in Tijuana, Mexico, or set up military bases, in Cuba. So exactly. So it's the same thing, but America, tries tries to talk, just ignore that fact that their threatening posture is what pushed Russia to the state that they're in. But it's all prophecy. But here we go.
Looking at more targets, and we could use more than one Orezhnik in these strikes. So far, Russia hasn't pulled that trigger, but I think it's inevitable they will if these attacks continue. I think Russia's trying to send the signals behind the scenes that, guys, we don't want this escalation, because after this, 2 or 3 iterations down the road, we only got one thing left to do, which is to nuke you. And we don't want to go in that direction. So they're trying to convince the United States to stop the ATACMS approval. Maybe they're also trying to just wait until Trump comes in to see if Trump will stop the ATACMS thing. But it's a very dangerous situation that we're in right now. And one of the reasons is that, the intelligence community, while they were accurate in describing the system, they can't be trusted when talking about battle damage assessment, because there's a political component to this. Joe Biden made a decision, and he doesn't want to be seen as backing away, or I should say Tony Blinken made a decision on Joe Biden's half, and they don't want to be seen as backing away. So there's a political dimension to this that's also linked to America's posture with NATO. If they back down now on ATACMS, that's a kiss of death for NATO. NATO, I don't think people understand how fragile NATO is right now. In Germany, there's an upcoming election, and the AfD party, Alternative for Deutschland, is positioned to have a majority and win. And they're saying if they win, they're pulling out of the EU. That's the end of the European Union. And if the European Union collapses, NATO collapses. In France, the prime minister.
Wow. This is Mark 3:23. And he called unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but have an end. So they're going to fight each other, and they're going to fight among themselves and fight their enemies, and then it's just like a free fall. All right? Because at the end of the day, the Russians, for the most part, are Edomites. And so is and that's an Edomite power structure. And so is the EU and NATO. So the West and what you can see is the posture of when it says how everyone's going to fire their missiles and come against the Chaldeans, which is talking about America, because the NATO and EU is going to realize that they can't beat Russia. They can't defeat them, and they're only in this jam because of America, because of the Chaldeans, because of Babylon the Great. This is Jeremiah 50 and 35. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. The Lord is getting ready to just mess this place up, man. That's why all these so-called drones, well, the orbs are destroying the drones now on camera. So they're going to have to come up with a new lie now. All right? They can't win. The chariots are here. The end is here. It's like I said, this place is running out of tomorrows. The financial system is collapsing. The law system is collapsing. Everything, the infrastructure is collapsing.
Is facing a vote of no confidence, which will probably pass, meaning there will be the collapse of the French government. This was Macron's desperate attempt to avoid the fact that a right-wing anti-war party had won the majority of the vote. He instead put together a minority government that is incapable of governing, so it will collapse. They will have to turn to the right, and they're not inclined to support any of this escalation inside Ukraine. So, NATO's very, very much in trouble. The Biden administration is positioning itself to say, we're going to shore up NATO as much as possible. They call it Trump proofing, so that when Trump becomes president, he won't be able to take decisive action because things will be so muddied up and mucked up. between.
He was being very polite. They putting Trump in a, he said, mucked up. They're putting Trump in a position where he's going to inherit a very fucked up situation, and it's gonna be almost impossible to fix it. Well, it can't, because there's no healing Babylon, right? Anything can happen between here and when Trump takes office. Anything.
Between the United States, NATO, and Russia. I think Russia understands
Wow.
this, and you see Russia trying to be patient, which is why, look, they cleared the airspace over Kapustin Yar, which is the test facility where they launched the first Orezhnik missile about 800 kilometers away from the target that was struck. They cleared the airspace up through November 30th. Well, here we are, December 2nd already, and there was no Orezhnik attack, and so maybe the Russians are saying, maybe the Russians got a signal saying, don't escalate, we'll work with you on the 20th. I don't know, but clearly the Russians are doing their best not to escalate this crisis. But if the ATACMS keep flying, I think, and Russia doesn't get assurances from Trump that he's going to change his policy, we're in a situation where the Russians will have no choice but to retaliate. And once they do that, they're either going to have to hit really hard, in which case you may prompt a NATO overreaction, or you'll get the same shrug from the West, and then they have to bring in more exotic weapons or hit NATO itself, and then you bring in the possibility of nuclear weapons. You asked Andre the question, what's the biggest story of the year? I think it's the biggest story of the year is Russia's new nuclear doctrine, because it's the one thing that can kill us all. And it's still very much in play.
And it is.
I think people should be impressed, not impressed like, wow, that's cool, but like, oh shoot, I'm scared. When Dmitry Peskov said, your attacks using ATACMS against us is not only a declaration of war by the United States against Russia, but it triggers our nuclear doctrine, meaning that if we wanted to, we could use nuclear weapons right now. You've already crossed that red line.
There it is.
I don't think people realize that we've already crossed the red line.
Exactly. So people don't understand how fragile this situation is, how serious it is. And the third, like the scripture says, the first and second woe have passed, and the third one comes quickly. We're in the day that and the third woe has begun. It just hasn't gone full blown yet. And it's not going to pull back. There's no scripture that said the third war is going to start and then calm back down, and it's not going to happen. This is 2 Peter 3 and 10, and it reads, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. It said it in Thessalonians, now we're reading it in Peter. In which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. Heavens meaning the rulerships. The Lord is coming to take down these rulerships. All right. And the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burned up. So there's going to be nothing left of Babylon, of the Chaldeans. There's going to be no Old Glory, no San Francisco, New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago. All that's going to go away. All right. Seeing that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of person ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking forward and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Lord, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Why? Because the Lord is going to cleanse this place. Fire is the most powerful cleansing agent, and this place is completely dirty and defiled. Earth needs to be cleansed. And it's not the whole earth that's going to be wiped out. That's a myth. That's what Scott believes, because, well, he's a heathen. He don't really believe in the Lord like that. That's clear just from the way he talks. He believes in his science, his bullets, and his missiles. All right? He believes in the Marine Corps. All right? He doesn't believe in the Lord like that. All right? And so the Lord made everything, all the prophecies have come to pass to the T. So is this one. And it says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for a new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness. That new heaven and that new earth. All right. The new heaven is the new rulership. The 144,000 and the rulership of the house of David, where David is actually going to sit at the head of that. All right, and it's going to be set up by Yahushai. Yahushua is going to set up the house of David, and the 12 tribes of Israel, 144,000 men from each of the 12 tribes will be the new judges, the new government, the new heaven, the new rulership of the earth forever and ever and ever and ever. They will never fall again. All right, and they fear that black planet, that dark planet, because Jake's gonna get, all the scattered. Well, we're gonna be changed. We're all gonna get changed. Those of us who don't look like a so-called, Negroes, those of our people that don't, they will. All right, we're gonna all get our melanin back, so to speak. Our height, our size. You can expect the Israelite men to be, damn near 8 feet tall. All right, 6 packs for no reason, and Pringles cans full of baby juice. Right, like the scripture says, how can one become 1,000? One little one become 1,000. Okay, and all the nations are going to be put under subjection for 1,000 years. They have to pay for what they did. When the scriptures are very clear that all nations had a hand and benefited from our downfall. So now they all going to have to pay. They're going to be tributaries unto us. And then after that 1,000-year period, all the heathen nations, people like Danny Hafong, will go back to his lands. All right? They will go back to their lands and they will be ruled over by us. They'll have their own kings and they'll be tributaries. And they'll have to follow the law, statutes, and commandments in the ways of the Bible. They will no longer worship all the, Buddha and all the heathen gods and none of that. They won't do any of that anymore. If they do that, the Lord will not send rain upon them. And then they'll perish. And even worse, the judges will come to see them. All right, that's why we will be the judges of the earth. And we will judge them according to the Bible. And some sins are sins unto death. So we'll literally be the real Judge Dreads. We'll show up in our chariots. We'll show up in their lands. And everybody will bend the knee. And then we would judge the situation, the matter. That's what's going to go on. And they don't like that. They hate that. All right. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash, Kwam Yasharala, Abba Babal. Keep praying and hastening the day. Shalom.